Happy New Year, and welcome to another edition of Inside Outlook. I'm Tony Trongone, Superintendent at Pemberton Township Schools. And in this current edition, we'll be focusing on our graduates, our current graduates, and how they're doing in their next stage in their life in post-secondary education. And so I have with me two recent graduates. We have Anthony Joseph, and we have Cindy Lynn, and we have Joe Barton, who graduated 2 years ago. Welcome. So if you can just please provide me with what college you're at, what's your major, and then we'll start with some questions.
Well, I'm at the College of William & Mary, and I intend to study government and global studies.
Okay.
Hey guys, I'm Cindy. I'm at Fordham University, majoring in bio on the pre-dental track, hoping to minor in arts.
Interesting.
And I'm at Rowan University, and I am majoring in music education.
Okay. Knowing all three of you, you're definitely on line with what I thought you would major in. So, and music, and then arts, bio. I remember talking before, Cindy, about that, and then obviously Mr. Joseph and his major. Bigger
Politics.
Politics, you said it. So I'll go off on a little bit here. I know as an educator, about 10 years ago, I started looking at, if you talk about the kindergarten teacher that wants to talk to the first grade teacher, and then that transition and that articulation, we call them articulation meetings. Then you go second to third, but then the big jumps when you go from fifth grade to sixth grade into middle school, and then in the middle school to high school. And we spend a lot of time in education on how are we doing, how are we preparing for the next level. But yet in the United States, not just Pemberton, we never really quantify or try to discover how well we're doing with our students as they leave our halls of Pemberton Township High School and go into post-secondary education. And so my first question is do we, I'm sorry it's so general, but do we prepare you for post-secondary education, and then go into a little bit about how? So I'll start with you, Joe. You have a year under your belt already.
Yeah, so when I think of how Pemberton has prepared me, I can think of like two things that I can really kind of describe. One, the diversity in Pemberton was excellent. I thought, growing up with a group of people, from all different sizes, shapes, what have it, I think that really prepared me just for seeing the world, not even just going to college. And two, the workload that I had, especially my senior year with some AP classes, I think that prepared me for the college workload. Just for my major specifically, I have more classes, so the course workload isn't as much. So having two AP classes at the same time, having to write a paper or two papers a week, I feel like that really kind of prepared me for the college workload. So those are two things that I can really think of that prepare me for college well.
Oh, great. Cindy.
Okay, so in college, I personally struggled a lot. Like practically failing half my classes because of it. And and honestly, it's not because of high school, I would say. I thought high school prepared me pretty well. I did a lot. I was really involved, and I had all these classes. But then one thing I would say that don't always go with the general crowd always doing, because all my friends are taking bio and chem, and everyone's doing it, and I thought I should be doing it. And then one thing I realized is to go at your own pace, no matter where you're at. Because if I went at my own pace, I would have just taken bio and taken bio and just kept at my own pace. It'd be a lot easier. And for high school, I was very involved, and I was good at interacting with people a lot. And the diversity, I think a lot, but one of my friends told me how open-minded I was, because I have seen all sorts of things. And you'd be surprised, and there's some people that are just kind of closed-minded, and they won't see the things that you do. And academically, Pemberton, I have, AP classes, it was a lot, but then at the same time, I think whenever you go into a new environment, you're going to face new challenges. You're going to have to adjust, homesickness, new roommates, and all that attributes to how you are doing in college. So I would say Pemberton did prepare me well, but you're going to face some challenges because it is a new environment.
Great. Anthony.
All these points hit home. I mean, Cindy was right on point with the diversity aspect of that. Just different personalities and trying to understand different perspectives. That definitely helped me because I'm way down south. I'm 6 hours from here. Just a new environment, a new lifestyle in general. Everything is a lot slower down there, you know. So getting adjusted to that was easier for me than for some of my other friends that came from New Jersey because they just weren't used to different personalities and different lifestyles all at once. I'll also say our writing literary teachers here, like Mrs. Williams, or even the history department, Miss Montero, Mrs. Harris, they have prepared me very well. I remember taking those AP classes and make sure you study before the last day, before the test is, you know. Make sure you invest your time. Take 10 minutes a day, read a couple pages. Did I do that in high school? Not so much, but I remember those lessons that I learned and I was able to use them and apply them in college, especially finals. All of my friends were at SWEM, our library, and it's open 24 hours at the end of the semester during finals week. And they were there cramming and like trying to get all this information that they're not going to remember the very next day before the test. And I started studying 3 weeks out, preparing myself. And I was going to bed finals week at like 9 and 10 o'clock for my finals the next day, and everybody else was doing all-nighters, pulling all-nighters at the library. So I can say studying and writing, I was very well prepared for the college environment.
Mm-hmm. So there's a common thread about diversity. So I want to go a little deeper about that. What do you mean by diversity?
Just for me personally, just, you know, the different types of people you meet, you know, people from different races, different ethnic groups, different, you know, honestly, I think when I said that diversity, I meant in like every facet of the word. You know, Pemberton truly has something for everybody. You know, when you get to college, it's a little, just specifically for Rowan, you know, it's mostly kind of like white dominated, you know, which is not a bad thing, but it's just, I feel like Pemberton like really just prepared me and like made me more open to the social aspect of kind of everything. Because college, it's a little bit more like almost secluded. So, and I was a little bit surprised going to college because I was so used to being in Pemberton and having like, you know, all these different kinds of people, you know, and I went to college, I was a little bit surprised. So I just felt like Pemberton was great in that aspect.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good.
So my school's in the Bronx. You know, the Bronx, it's like the hood. So we had the Bronx, and once you walk onto campus, it's very white dominant. And like, I gotta say that Pemberton diversity was excellent because you see people from all walks of life. And that was the one thing I couldn't get used to in my school, and the diversity rate was very low in my school. And I gotta say also the social classes, because it is a private school and tends to be preppy kids, you know, and like I know a lot of kids who's like, oh, my mom and dad are both doctors, and like they have an easy ride in college. And I gotta say that one thing is it allowed me to be a little bit more humble too, because like I have seen the worst and I have seen the best now of what like kids have nowadays, and like I'm kind of in the middle, you know, I'm comfortable, so it makes me appreciate what other kids do have, because like a lot of kids went to private schools. Most of my close friends went to private schools in New Jersey, I think, and like sometimes I'm just like, oh, I wish I had that, you know, because private schools, one thing I gotta say that my friend was, they didn't struggle as much because their workload was very heavy in private school, and now in college they said that it was about the same. And also I have friends who work in 3 jobs trying to stay in college, you know, and it allows me to see both sides, appreciate both sides, and from the less fortunate kids, I would say it allows me to be more humble too and work harder and hopefully get a job on campus. That's one thing I'm hoping to do, yeah.
All right, well, good luck with that.
Hey.
Anthony.
Piggybacking off private students, private school students versus public school students, a lot of them assumed that I was from a private school. A lot of them were like, oh, you know, coming to, you know, a college like this, you must have been like an independent school or a private school. Like, no, I was in the public system. The majority of my friends have been in private school. So it's just, that was somewhat of a culture shock to me, because especially with the wealth disparity, not to say that I don't come from a very well-to-do household, but just the vast wealth disparity, because these kids went to private school and their mothers and fathers made like 6 figures or something like that, 6-figure salaries. It was just a different experience for me, because I never was encountered by wealth disparity before, you know. So that was something that Pemberton, I would say, had prepared me well for, because there's just so many different people. There's so many different, so many different lifestyles and personalities. So it was a little culture shock at first, but I was like, it's different, but I'm used to differences. I'm used to things being different. And I will say, with the election cycle being what it is, that was also another thing that I felt I had an edge versus people who came from two different lifestyles, who went to William & Mary and couldn't see eye to eye on politics. So I was like, well, I would mediate conversations like, well, you need to understand where they're coming from. They've had different experiences than you. They don't understand. Like, I have friends that come from Ohio that have a different background, a different understanding of politics than my friends that come from New York. So again, on the whole, like, diversity as in personalities, lifestyles, and the way people think, I feel Pemberton had prepared me very well for that.
Good. So my next question, either any of you can answer this. I guess there's some, what's the right word? Some people have a certain visualization or opinion about Pemberton schools and about where our kids go. And so I have three of you here that are going to four-year institutions. And so what would you like to tell those folks that say, I know before I got here there was a saying, we still keep it here, you can get there from here. So how can you get people to know that door is open, that you can get there from here? Like, so Pemberton prepared you, but there's a perception, I guess is the right word, a perception. Like if you go to Pemberton, well, you might go to RCBC, but you're going to William & Mary, you're going to Fordham, you're going to Rowan. So was it just you? Was it something in your personality that's making you take these stepping stones to these universities? I know that's part of it. We know that, but then that's what I'm struggling with, the fact that people have this perception, but yet you can get there from here. So what do you need to tell those kids that are in 10th grade right now? Go ahead.
I've been talking to my friend about this for a while, and like we had in-depth conversations, because she graduated from Pemberton and she purposely moved out of Pemberton because she didn't want to, be here. And not because Pemberton is a bad town. I gotta say two things. One is that the social classes tend to be a little bit lower here, which something just can't be helped. And you go to certain towns and you have wealthy people. For our towns, we just tend to have the lower classes, and that's okay. And the thing is, a lot of people see success as going to colleges, going here and there, but success is not about where you start, it's about how you end. And a lot of kids start out, you can say, small, but they do tend to go doing bigger things, and as they go. And another thing is that people tend to get comfortable here. And it's not just here. I know friends in Long Island and New York who says this town is kind of I won't say a trap, but when you get comfortable here, you don't really want to move out your comfort zone. And that's the one thing people really have to see. And that's why my friend, who's 23 years old, she said that, I want to move out that town because I don't want to get comfortable there. I want to be able to expand and get out my comfort zone. And that was one thing that I purposely did, which is why I moved to New York. It's a town that a city that just never sleeps, and there's always going to be change here and there. And I think for Pemberton kids, they have to see that it's not just here, There's so much options out there, and you don't have to limit yourself. And, it's okay to limit yourself, because financially it can be hard, but, break out that comfort zone. That's the biggest thing for me.
Good. Now my next question is, as far as what we need to work on. What are some things we need to go back and talk to the folks at the high school and the middle school, and to me too, what do I need to work on to help put those steps in place so our kids can get to where they need to go? Because it might not just be college, it could be career too, but for college, what do we need to work on?
Well, just personally for me, one of the great things about going to a school in New Jersey, especially a school in South Jersey, is that when I meet other kids, they say, I'm from Toms River, I'm from Northern Burlington. We all know generally, where we're from, what kind of where in New Jersey we're from. So when I introduce myself and say I'm from Pemberton, it kind of garners a different response, because not a lot of people know Pemberton. So it's nice to be able to talk about Pemberton and kind of describe Pemberton for them. But I guess the reputation that I kind of see other people have for Pemberton is that it's just kind of piggybacking off of what Cindy said, just kind of maybe lower on the socioeconomic status, you know. But I think it's good that people see, you know, there's different people from Pemberton, you know, in different schools, so it's good that people see, okay, these are people from Pemberton that are doing something. One thing that I feel like that we have to work on is just getting more kids opportunities for those like higher level classes, you know, more opportunities for AP classes, just more opportunities to learn and prepare them for school, maybe more opportunities to do like things that they're interested in. I think it's great at the high school that we have the ASTEM Academy, the Medical Academy, the FAME Academy, because those are 3 different facets of careers that are very popular that a lot of kids are interested in. So I think that's great. I mean, I think it would be cool to have some more of those things, you know. Those are really big general things that I think a lot of kids are interested in, but it would be neat to have some more of those things that could kind of sway other kids to say, hey, I'm really interested in that. That's what I want to do. Why don't I try that? You know, something like that. So maybe just more things or more career paths that kids are
To let them know about it or open it up for them? Do you think that we...
Open it up for them, yeah, definitely,
Okay.
so that they can explore it a little bit more, because I think one of the big beneficiaries for me, you know, being in the FAME Academy in high school, I learned so much in high school that I use in college. For example, like, you know, in music we use this thing called solfege, you know, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. We use that really we use that a lot in high school, and I got to college and that's all that we do in college, and a lot of my friends in college didn't do that in high school. So I think that was something that, you know, that Pemberton really did prepare me for, is that specific part of college. So I think if kids had more access to be involved in that kind of stuff before they got to the next level, that would be really beneficial.
Yeah.
And again, I struggled in college, hey. But I think coming from like the A-STEM side, where like a lot of the science kids, and we always rip on other kids because they didn't do as much work. But I think the reason why I struggle so much is not because I wasn't exposed to these classes, but I just didn't have some classes I just didn't get enough of, you know, like for example chemistry. I only took honors chemistry a sophomore, and now going to college I barely slept, and you know, and I had labs and it was difficult. So I think one thing to really step up the game here is to have higher standards, not just because we're AP, give higher standards, honors classes, basic classes. Don't start from the top, start from the bottom. You know, give the basic kids more exposure, higher standards, and you know, I hear kids from, you know, like again, my friends from private schools, they pay $17K a year, and they said that just to get into honors, it's you know 10 times harder than, you know, regular AP classes. And you know, don't, you know, not saying that, don't limit it to how much you can give students based on the namings, basic, honors, and AP. See everyone as a whole, you know, like everyone gets the same opportunity, everyone has to work just as hard as other people. And I guess there's always that cutoff between honors, AP, and then the basic kids, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want that cutoff there, because in college, nobody cares where you came from. As long as college is about surviving. Thank you, Chazen. It's about surviving, so like,
Right.
you know, I think start from the bottom, you know, work your way up, and honestly, Pemberton is a great place, and I know we can do it. From that.
Very good. More rigorous coursework.
Yeah.
Anthony?
Especially in the areas of mathematics and economics.
What crazy.
Whoa. I had my microeconomics class, and I took econ at the high school, I think my sophomore year or freshman year. It was an early requirement for something. I was like, oh, let me get this out of the way. And I remember nothing from that class. And I was struggling very hard. Like, I failed my first test. My first exam of college, I flunked, and I was freaking out. And then the next one, I studied, I changed my study habits, I altered them, still didn't get really good results. It was a C-, and I had a D in the class at that point in time. For the midterm, I wasn't passing. And I was freaking out, and I was trying to figure out, like, why is it taking me so long to understand these concepts? Like, I had friends left and right to me, and these guys were like, they had the equations and algorithms like in the back of their head, like just stored knowledge. Like, oh yeah, it's the reason why it's this way is because X, Y, and Z. You know, they were able to make sense of that. But it took me nearly twice as long to learn the material that they could learn right when she spoke it. It took me twice as long to learn all of that. So I would go to tutoring. Luckily, tutoring was free for me. I went to tutoring. I was asking my friends, like, hey, can you help me out? I was doing the homework right when she released it because it was always due it on the next week. It was just really rough. And thank goodness I passed with a C. I was able to pass that class, but it was just a struggle. That's where I struggled. And I think especially nowadays and the ever-evolving political climate, economic climate that we're in, I think it's imperative for kids to have a very strong grasp at an early age of economics. I think that's important. I think we're on a trend in society where we do not understand those fundamental economic things. And I think it's imperative that we need to cultivate that, and mathematics here too, because economics would have been easier if I had a better understanding of mathematics. I just wasn't well equipped for that. But I also think the most important thing that we need to get from all of this is a change in attitude when it comes to students that go to Pemberton. Stereotypes exist. They always have. They make things uncomfortable. Life, in essence, is uncomfortable. But why are you going to allow what people may think of you without meeting you change what you think about yourself, change what you think about your future? Why are you going to let those things affect you? When I was going to the high school, I detested the whole thing, like, oh, it's just Pemberton. Oh, the whole the Pemberton stigma and the stereotypes. And when I heard that from other people going to other campuses across Berlin County, I detested that. Because I was like, why are you putting that upon my character when that is not a reflection at all whatsoever of who I am? And my thing to my students as an alumnus, when are you going to release those shackles and say, that doesn't apply to me? I'm going to do my very best. I'm going to adhere to my teachers and understand that they're trying to teach me these things and have me be successful, and I'm going to not allow them to tarnish my own self-image. And I think that's the most important thing that we need to cultivate in Pemberton.
That's very good, because that was my next question as far as what advice you would give to these upcoming graduates, and that was perfectly said. Anything to add to that?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Not me? Okay, sure.
Very well said, Ian.
I really liked what Cindy said earlier about, when you get to college, you have a chance, if you really want to start over. No one knows who you are, where you came from. They don't really care either. I think, my advice would be just kind of like stick through it, and you will reap the rewards that you work for once you get to college and once you get through college, because I know for the three of us, we all worked really hard in Pemberton, and I know we're reaping the rewards right now of having the opportunity to go to school and get a great education. And I think that in itself is worth it. And I know we haven't graduated from college yet, but I know just knowing all three of us, I know that we can reap the rewards then too by getting a good job, being able to make a good living, and having started from Pemberton. So I think my advice would be, I would love, I really like what Anthony said too about how we need to change the attitude a little bit. I think if we can get, an attitude that is positive towards going to school, getting a great education, I think that would be really pertinent. But my advice would just be to, for kids that are still in high school, really want to go to college, stick your head down, just involve yourself in your work, and you will reap the rewards later in life.
Very good. Very good.
For the high school kids
Very
now,
good, yeah.
Do your best, do what you got to do. But once you get into college, this is my advice: know that you won't be the best. That's one thing that I graduated as valedictorian. I was ashamed that I was struggling, and I was talking to my professor, and he asked me, he's like, do you know why you're struggling so much? And I was like, I honestly don't know, and he asked me about some of my backgrounds. He was like, did your parents go into college? I was like, no, my parents, I think they only graduated middle school, and that's it. And thinking about it now, I was frustrated by the fact that I didn't have as much as the other kids. Some of these kids, both their parents, like I said, both their parents were doctors. They're both, from birth, they had a path for all the other kids, for their own kids to go on a good path. But my parents, I was kind of like a guinea pig. We didn't know what the hell we was doing, you know what I'm saying? So I was frustrated by that. I was saying that, why am I struggling so much? Why didn't I have so much? And I realized I had changed my attitude for that, it's okay if I had to work 2 times hard. I had to work 2 times harder as these kids.
Right.
You know, like during finals, I was pulling all-nighters and, you know, going to the library, I sat there for 24 hours and just kept on studying. And I gotta say that sometimes it doesn't always pay off, because some kids, they had these rigorous education all throughout their life. For me, it was just now I'm stepping into, you know, how difficult, even though Pemberton was challenging, this was a whole different level. And I thought that, oh, you know, hard work always pays off. Sometimes hard work doesn't always pay off. You know, it's reality, because it's not always like, oh, if you work hard, it's gonna pay off. Sometimes when you work hard, it doesn't pay off, and that's okay. And I think the attitude is not why am I not doing well, but how can I do better?
Yeah, I want to go a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to go. I'm supposed to be interviewing you guys, but I got to impart, you know, some of my experience too, though, Cindy, because I think, and you got to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that when you're in this particular paradigm of Fordham University, you're making this, you're diving into this culture. Right now, you're not the best, but I got to say, as your superintendent, that myself, I came from a blue-collar background, so I had that. So I think what I would like to tell you is, you might not be the best now, but I think what I see from the character of all 3 of you, that you will be the best. Just that first step, that's inertia, that's going to be, I'm not the best now, but I'm not going to quit because of it.
It's about the rebound.
Exactly. Because then what happened, I can tell you for myself, and it's not about me, but then I was in a situation, I was in Cherry Hill with 65 administrators with PhDs and all, and I'm a blue-collar guy, I was a math background, but then I realized that I was one of the smartest people in the room. But I didn't know it until I was almost 50 years old. And I'm telling you right now, the 3 of you, that don't wait till you're 50 years old to find out that you're the smartest person in the room, because it's about figuring it out. It's about figuring it out. You're right, some people were exposed to certain content that I wasn't exposed to. And maybe they were getting the different dose of medicine or sunshine or soil that they were growing in, and I wasn't in that flower pot. But then eventually, you know, I figured it out, and I think that that's what you have to realize, that you might not be number 1 now, but if you keep on attacking it, like you have been attacking it, you're going to be successful. So, I'm proud of all 3 of you.
Thanks.
And I'm glad that you're here. Yeah, I know, Cindy. But also, I like to see your smiles on your faces and know we're having fun, too. Because it isn't all, I mean, you said put your nose at a grindstone and work it out, but there's also a time to, you know, seek your passion and then have fun as you're doing it. So.
Party.
Oh, yeah, watch out there, too. That first, I know, but there is time for fun. There is time for fun.
But one thing I do want to add is that don't limit yourself to just what you want to do, because at first I was like, you know, people were like, oh, find your passion, and I thought, you know, I want to be comfortable in life. That's why I want to go on a pre-med track. And then now thinking about it, one of my, I think, mentor was telling me, she was saying that a lot of kids that go into dental school or medical school are actually music and art majors, because it's a lot of hand-on work, especially dental. You're shaping teeth, you know, and that's just like sculpting and art. And that's why I want to minor in art. And like at first I thought I had to keep things as hobbies and keep things as passions and go as, you know, careers and hobbies are separate. But you know, it's all intertwined if you find a way to, you know, weave it together.
Well said, well said. You got to be, I think that there's a part about American education too, about the fact that it's a bifurcated approach to, there's this sciences and then there's the arts. But actually what you find out is that America has even though China has the most patents, but they're not of innovation. They're just, they're building on an existing patent. But because we value the arts in the United States, we have more new patents, innovative patents. And so to blend that, you know, that the sciences with the arts gets us to a different world. And then you guys will be a part of that. So again, thank you. And I look forward to hearing back again in maybe another year. Okay?
Thank you.
So thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
for
you.
having
Having
us.
us.
You're welcome. And so again, I enjoyed the dialogue with these, with this august group, and look forward to another meeting with them to see exactly where they're at on their journey to success. Signing out, this is Tony Trongone, Superintendent of Pemberton Township Schools. Take care and stay warm.